guys, this is George with Firehouse Music, and today we're going to continue with our explanation of musical notation. Here behind me, let me move this way. Behind me you can see we got the staff going on. Last time we talked about rhythm. If you haven't seen that, go back to the previous video and check it out, because we're going to talk about pitch today. So that's the y-axis in this graph that we talked about, right? So every single, and the way the staff works, so you can have note heads, and we just call them events for now. So these events can be anywhere in this staff. You can put them on the first line, you can put them in the spaces, right? And all that means is how high or how low a note is going to be. We're going to use the musical alphabet to designate them. And the musical alphabet goes from A to G, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But rather than getting caught up in that, and I'm sure you can find a conventional, music theory video and look at things like the mnemonics that are used to learn the notes inside the staff. Every good boy does fine. And the acronym FACE, F-A-C-E, for each one of those things. Any basic, piano book's gonna teach you that. But that's not the focus that I want to look at right now. Instead, since we play guitar, I want to associate each note that I play with a position on the guitar. And in the very beginning, it's helpful to kind of be anchored to one position. Later, we'll learn to play everywhere, all over the guitar, but in the beginning, it's good to kind of have a single position, because that's also a problem. A big problem about reading on guitar is that the pitches, the notes repeat. For instance, this E right here, this E note can be played in a number of different places. I can play it on the open first string, on the second string, 5th fret, on the third string, 9th fret, on the fourth string, 14th fret, on the 5th string, 17th fret, there it is, and then on the 6th string, 24th fret, which I don't have on this guitar, but I can play in the harmonic, and it works the same way. That means that note, which happens to be this note right here, is going to repeat, and it's going to look the same, right? So that's sometimes what can be overwhelming for a student. It's like, oh, well then, if you have all these notes and tons of different ways to play the same thing, how am I ever going to learn how to read? And that is a very good point. So rather than doing that and looking at the guitar as a whole, we break it down into positions. And then the problem of having repeated notes, for the most part, goes away. We're going to look at where that problem still exists, but it's much more manageable than having it happen for every single note that you can play. So what you want to do here is you want to learn the positions of the notes on the guitar on the staff and make the relation between those two things happen. So I care less about you being able to tell me that this is a C note than you knowing that this note right here is on the first ledger line below the staff. So we're going to look at that, and erase that. And the first thing, or the simplest structure, I think, for us to take a look at is the C major scale. So we're going to look at one octave of the C major scale, and we're going to look at how that translates onto the guitar. So we can use that as the foundation to build upon, and then finally have all the notes, all the possible notes in the first position available on the guitar and on the staff. So if we look at the C major scale, one octave, it's going to look like this. We have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. So we have a C major scale, one octave. If you don't know what that is, when I play it, you'll know, because that is just this. So, that's the kind of thing that you hear if you play every white note on the piano, right? You have that That's the C major scale. All the notes are natural. And so I'd encourage you to learn that, this C is on the 5th string, 3rd fret. The D above the C, still below the staff, it's going to be on the open 4th string. The E on the first line of the staff, it's going to be on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. The F on the first space on the staff is going to be on the 3rd fret of the 4th string. The G on the 2nd line on the staff is going to be the open 3rd string. The A on the 2nd space on the staff is going to be on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. B is going to be the open 2nd string. And then C on the 3rd line on the staff, the 3rd space on the staff, is going to be on the 2nd string, 1st fret. That may seem super complicated and difficult, but not really. You got 8 elements. So if you can remember a phone number, and I know we don't memorize phone numbers anymore, but if you can memorize at least one number. There's at least one number that you know by heart. You can learn this. It's that easy. There is an element of memorization, and I hate memorization, but sometimes we have to do it. And that is one thing that you have to do is correlate each note with each position on the guitar. Now, you may have noticed we can continue, right? We have more lines and more spaces, and we certainly have more guitar. So if we expand that scale in both directions, we're going to end up with something like this. Should have turned the volume down. Okay, so we can go. I'm going to have to move this down some and move the clef a little bit. All right. So we need a lot of space going up. So we have a D note up here, an E, an F, and a G. We can go further, but that's going to take us out of position. You'll see why in just a second. Going down, we have a lot more. We can go below here. Then we have an A. So that's a B, an A. We have a G below that. I can make it fit. An F. And finally, the open 6th string, which is an E. And we are assuming a treble clef here. I had to delete it to make space, but just assume the treble clef is there. So the way that's going to look like on the guitar is like this. So we have the first octave. And then we add the additional notes. So C is here. Then we have D, E, F, and G. And then going below that, from that C, we have these B, an A, a G, an F, and then the low E. And those are the notes that you see represented right there on the whiteboard. Initially, I would start with the same 8 notes that we began with. So we have going from C all the way to C. Memorize those first. And then either move your register up or down if you prefer, and learn those after. If you try to learn the whole thing at once, it might be a little too much. But if you learn it this way, just the first 8, it should be quite manageable. Don't fall into the trap of playing the notes in order and then thinking that you got it. It's very easy to memorize the pattern. If you practice this skill enough, you're going to get to where your fingers know it. So you can just run up and down the scale. And still have no idea how to read those notes on the staff. You're better off taking your time and going very slowly, learning each note. And you can mix the notes up. Or if you prefer, you can find, there's tons of reading material out there that you can use. I'm partial to the William Levitt book. I really like it. But you don't have to get that. You can get whatever you want. As long as you have notes in the key of C, you can play with that and adjust it and modify it. What you want is you want the notes to appear in seemingly random order. So as you read those notes and you read them in, you will be reading them individually instead of relying on the memorized pattern that you have, which is the scale. You do that and you'll have the natural notes under your fingers. So let's talk about accidentals now. Okay, so the other thing that you might run into, and this trips up guitars for some reason, is accidentals. And the accidentals are the sharp, which looks like a pound sign or a hashtag, and the flat, which looks like a tiny B. The way I think about these accidentals are as modifiers. So the sharp is a +1. It's gonna add a fret to any note we play. So whenever you see something sharp, you just move it up a fret. The flat does the opposite. We have a -1, so it takes away a fret. So whenever you see something flat, it moves down a fret. There are other accidentals, the double sharp and the double flat, +2 and -2. But you're not going to see those as often as you see these ones. So for now, we're going to concentrate, since this is a fundamentals video, we're going to concentrate just on the flat and the sharp and the flat. Okay, so if we keep dropping stuff, if we look at the notes that we had before, so right now I have the scale, just the first octave, so we have right, we have those notes going on. If you see, let's say we take this note and we erase it, so we make this note a sharp, right? So now our scale is going to look the same, except that the note that normally was an open third string is now going to be first fret on the third string. 0 + 1 is 1, right? So if we play the scale as written now, it's going to sound like this. So I just raised the note. If I lower a note, so I take this note and make it a flat, so that E that was on the second fret of the fourth string. But now it has a flat, so 2 - 1 is 1. So now I play that note. That's E flat. So as written, the scale will now sound like I'm sorry, I played an A flat there. That's the correct version. So, and that's really it. Any one of these notes can be modified in that manner. If you see a sharp before it, you play it 1 fret higher from where you originally learned it. If you see a flat, you play it 1 fret lower than where you originally saw it. If you want to understand a little bit more how sharps and flats work and how they interact in tonality, I do have a music theory class where I talk a little bit more about the music theory aspect of it. Right now we're just looking at the reading, so as long as you can identify them and you know where they are on the guitar, that's enough for the scope of this video. So to summarize, we have all the notes, all the natural notes, what would be the white keys on the piano on the guitar. Or if we start from C. So that's all the notes in the open position. And then we had accidentals. So any one of these notes can be modified going up or down. Don't worry about whether a note that you're accessing with an accidental sounds like a note that you're playing in a conventional scale. What I mean by that is, if you see F flat, you say, well, but that was an E. It doesn't matter. It's an F flat. Don't overthink it. Just look at the accidental and play what's written, and you'll be fine. You do that, then beyond that, all you have to do is practice. This is not, it's an easy skill, it's simple, but it does require some practice, because you're gonna have to learn the notes, you're gonna have to connect each note with the feeling of playing the note on the instrument. And until you develop that like eye to hand connection, you're not gonna be able to read effectively. That's why I don't particularly care about whether you can name the notes. If you can tell me like, oh yeah, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, it doesn't matter. If you're the kind of person that has to have the name for the note and not having them hinders you, fine, learn the names of the notes, it's okay. But it's far more important that you know that this is played here, that this is played here, that this, in this case, is played here, and so on. That's far more important than you being able to rattle off the names of the notes and still not be able to play them. So spend some time working on this concept, learn it, practice it, and I will see you guys on the next video for some variations on the rhythmic concepts that we do.